the anger necessary? Okay, maybe I need to ask myself that question. What work is the anger doing? How does it contribute to the bottom line? And what is it doing for me? What I was going to say was, if their ideas are bad and wrong, and people follow these wrong ideas, and their lives are worse for having followed those wrong ideas, why am I not mad at that person? But then I have to ask myself, exactly what work is my anger doing? I mean, maybe what it's doing for me isn't contributing very much to society. Maybe it's a self-righteousness fueled anger. I'm angry as a way of stoking my own sense of superiority, as a a way of sort of okay. I don't know. I had that my honest. This is spontaneous. I did not prepare. I don't really know why I'm so mad.
I under this beginning to look like some sort of therapy session. I understand the anger completely. But it's and I think ultimately though the issue is how do you change these behaviors? And I think that when it comes to say Omar, my thought is it's certainly not going to be teaching Omar to think differently. For me, solutions involve changing incentives, changing temptations, changing what Omar is around so that Omar's son comes out a different person. And so I think, and this includes the cops. A lot of people think the solution is to change cop culture, and that certainly has to be part of things. But you can see how very hard that is. Like the hot news this week is that Ahmaud Arbery is being vindicated only because it happened to be recorded. And that if it wasn't recorded, then American justice would have continued the way it was. And that, that's also been said about other such cases. And, maybe that's true. And as far as I'm concerned, the thought there is, okay, isn't it a little quixotic to assume that we're going to change cop culture in 18,000 police precincts across the country? So my thought is, as somebody who's trying to be a problem solver, and I think this comes from linguistics, which is a kind of a geeky problem set sort of thing like engineering, where you're solving a problem. A lot of people don't know that about linguistics. I don't study etymology. It's a science. And I think, well, how do you make it so that Omar doesn't have as much contact with the cops as he would otherwise? And then I start thinking about the war on drugs and things like that. Get the cops away from Omar. Because if Omar is anywhere near the cops, bad stuff is going to happen, partly because of the nature of the cops, partly because of the nature of Omar, and the culture that he grows up in and what he sees people responding to the cops with. Just keep the cops away from him. And next thing you know, you de-escalate a whole cultural situation. I get the feeling that's considered either an eccentric or an ineffective way of looking at the race situation. But for me, I just call it cold-eyed pragmatism. But it's a compassionate pragmatism as far as I'm concerned. And compassionate conservatism is what people are going to call it. But that's my approach to this sort of thing. How much can you reform human beings? That's the thing.
Yeah, I don't think I agree, but I can't dismiss what you're saying. And I can situate it. I mean, as an economist, of course, the natural thing you think about are incentives. You think about welfare policy and about the incentives of welfare policy. And, you can do this from the left or from the right. From the left, you can say people are poor, they don't have decent housing, they lack resources, and so they turn to gangs or drug selling. And from the right, you can say welfare is too generous, it discourages people, it pays people to not have responsibility in their lives, but and et cetera, and so on. And I want to allow for a spiritual dimension. And I'll come back to that if time permits in this conversation. I just want to mark the fact that I'm not sure that I agree. But I didn't want to leave the previous thing because I think I had an insight about myself. Why am I so mad? You're sad and in a way resigned to the fact that Omar is never going to think any differently. And I'm mad. And I think the reason I'm mad is because I'm ashamed. I'm ashamed of Omar. I'm ashamed of the Omars of the world. Darrell Brooks. I think Darrell Brooks is the name of the gentleman who drove a vehicle into a Christmas parade in Kenosha, Wisconsin, and killed a number of people and injured many more. And he happens to be black. I'm ashamed. I was just praying that the guy who did this thing was not black. When I heard that this event had happened, someone had driven a vehicle into a crowd, I was praying to myself, don't let him be black, don't let him be black. And he turned out to be black. And then I was thinking, don't let him be a Black Lives Matter follower with a trail of comments on Facebook or Twitter or whatever, and I gather there's some evidence to that effect, although I'm not completely familiar with all the evidence. So, well, yeah, I mean, the point was I'm angry because I'm ashamed. I'm ashamed of my Black people showing their butts and acting like idiots and being not worthy of being respected and, not performing. And then belly aching and crying and making excuses for not performing. And this is complex. And, I'm working on the self-analysis stuff that I'm doing in this writing project that I'm embedded in. And so I don't want to draw you too far down into that rabbit hole. But a sense of shame at the discrediting behavior of my co-racialists, leading to being angry at them. Why don't they stand up straight with their shoulders back? Why can't they get their acts together? Why are they, time and time again, leaving me in this position of feeling ashamed? So I'm angry with them.